All right, wake up call. Hayom Yom. Here's the wake up call for today. For Adar Sheini. When the Mittler Rebbe would say Hasidus, there was a perfect hush. But first of all, you should know that this expression to say Hasidus is a very specific meaning in Hasidus or amongst Hasidim. When a Rebbe says a Sicha, that's not saying Hasidus. Saying Hasidus is a mimer. You'll see it in stories of many stories that are told about the Hasidim trying to influence the Rebbe to take on the Nesius, the leadership. They would say to him, Zog Hasidus, because him saying a mimer was the indication that he had taken it on. So, in any case, when the Mittler Rebbe would say Hasidus, meaning Zog a mimer, there was a perfect hush, a perfect silence. So I'm just looking over here. Sehr still. It was very quiet. Still, he would intersperse the Hasidus with shh, 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 as if he was talking to somebody to be quiet. So my father explained, and this is the Rebbe Rashab to the Frierdiker Rebbe, that this was to still the gushing of his intellect, stop the racing of his mind. With this, he explained the expression in the Zohar. The Zohar says, I'll say it in English, then it's important to say it in the Aramaic too. The venerable sage, meaning the old, venerable, honorable one, the wise one, whose mind is concealed, for it is still and tranquil. So the word for the in the Zohar is Saba. Saba, yeah, it's related to the word in Hebrew for Saba and Sabta, grandfather and grandmother. So it means an old person. But in Kabbalah and Hasidus, there's the expression Yisrael Saba, which refers to Yaakov. It's called Yisrael. So in colloquial, you could translate it Yaakov the elder, or the grandfather of us all. But in Hasidus, in Kabbalah, that's brought in Hasidus, it's understood as a level in consciousness. Yisrael Saba is a level in consciousness which is deeper than the conscious flow of the mind. So we talk about mindfulness, right? To have a particular state of being mindful of something, put your mind on that, and on that's being in the present, being mindful. But that's a very positive thing, no doubt about it. But at the same time, your mind is there. There's another level which people are also familiar with, which is clearing the mind, clearing the mind, so that the conscious flow of thought is not present, and that deeper state is roughly analogously associated with this Yisro Saba, the place of silence, from which emerges the place of noise. So with that, what he's saying Hasidus. And Hasidus, if you've listened to, I'm sure you have, a Rebbe say Hasidus, it just flows. And every flow, think of a river, a flow, which is the discernible movement of the water on the surface, comes from an underground point of stillness, which you don't see, a still small voice. That's another expression from Malachim, Kol Damama Daka, the voice which is Damama, which is silent and very thin. And that's the state that that's what the Mittler Rebbe was saying to himself, to stop the flow of voice and listen to the silent voice within. Very moving, I think, and also very instructive. It relates to the whole section of Tanya remember, the first part of time, there's the long way and the short way. The long way is the way of hisbaininus, which is consciousness, conscious flow, directing the mind in certain directions. The flow, mizbainin, to use your faculty of bina. But then there's a deeper level, which is coming from the silent space, the doimim, the silent space, which we've spoken of. This is an extremely subtle and yet important thing. The word silence, dumb, can't talk, is the same word as ho'adama, the earth. The earth is quiet. And therefore, as we will start to see, and actually it's interesting, today's Tanya begins this whole notion of the supremacy of deeds down here in the lowest world, in the most silent world, in the world which is the least noisy about elokus, about godliness, and which in fact hides godliness, the ha'adama, the earth. And that's what we'll be talking about. We're transitioning here to that topic, the importance of the earth just doing, mitzvahs maisius. But before we do that, refuah shleimus, please.
Elko Rachel Bas Eliza, Baruch Benjamin Ben Rachel Blema, Yehudis Golda Bas Eliza Hana, and Hava Daniela Bas Naomi Hana.
Refuah shleima b'korev. Anybody else? And through the merit of our learning, and especially our fixed times for learning, Hashem should open up the gates of healing for all of them. Lessons in Tanya. We're starting on page 452, the new chapter, chapter 35. Okay. Okay. Likutei Amorim. Bottom page 86. Okay, just a very short preface. And with that word, I'll reference, not the preface, but the frontispiece of Likutei Amorim, the Tanya. On the title page of Likutei Amorim, the Alter Rebbe told us, this is called the Sefer Shel Beinanim, the book of the Beinani, the middle person. And it's malukit, it's connected, it's a collection of sayings, and he says from where they come, and all based on the pasuk. And this is the following pasuk that's in Sefer Devorim. Ki korev elecha hadova ma'oid. I'm writing all this because this is the pasuk. Ki korev elecha hadova ma'oid. The thing is very, very close to you. B'sicha, in your mouth, u'levavacha, and in your heart, la'asoisoi, to do it. In other words, let's put all the complications aside, and let's put all the intellect aside, and let's put all the ruminations and the steiging away in mindfulness, in being full of filling Torah with your mind, and know that there's a path to God which is very, very close to you. Doesn't need to be noisy and full of deep thoughts. And it's in your mouth and in your heart to do. So the emphasis here is back to doing. Okay, now we begin the parak. The Alter Rebbe says, I'm going to give you more additional explanation in the word lasoisoi, which is that last word. To do it. I'm going to give you more explanation of what it means and about doing it. V'gam, and in addition, lahavin na'at mezera, and also to understand a little bit of the tachlis b'riyas habeinanim, the purpose of the creation of the Beinani. Now, just to, quickly, just what is the Beinani? The Beinani is the middle person, and we said earlier, between what and what? Between the evil person on the one side and the righteous person on the other side is Mr. In-Between, as Chaim Miller entitled his translation, The Book of the In-Betweener. What's the purpose? I mean, something, I'm caught in between, right? The Beinoni is caught in between, which is, and I'm purposely using a phrase which has a certain negativity to it, as you'll see. So what's the purpose of the Beinoni? V'yurida, back inside. V'yuridas nishmasayim la'olam hazeh. And the purpose of the Beinoni's souls into this world, lehislabish b'nefesh bahamis, to be enclosed in an animal soul, shemihaklipa b'sitra acher, which comes from the shell, the covering, which blocks godliness, and we call it the other side. We, the Beinoni, us who are working to move to the right, in this case being godliness, not conservatism, right? Godliness, right? Kedusha. It's a work. And because God has put us in this situation where it's a difficult thing to do because we've been embedded in an animal soul, which has a natural draw toward purely animalistic things. And associated with this is this sitra acher, this force of the other side, which is added to that to schlep us even further into the pit, so to speak. Back inside. And I'm at the top of page Mem Daled. Because the Beinoni is not able to throw that away all of his or her days that she's living here. And to push it, I mean the negativity, to push away the negativity, from its place. And where is its place? The place of negativity is the cholol hasmali shebelev, the left side of the heart. The heart, that side of the heart, which is attracted to things as they appear. And or in animalistic terms, the three main things that an animal does. He eats, he sleeps, and he creates, and he copulates. Those are the three things he does. And he hunts, of course, in order to eat. Okay, so this is our nature, to be drawn from the perspective of the left side of the heart, which is the heart where the animal soul gets its power from, into those directions. And we have to work very hard that those kinds of attachments don't attach themselves and become the major preoccupation of our mind and rise up literally these thoughts shouldn't rise up into our brain. Okay, and it's a battle. We've talked about this battle in the whole first part of Tanya. And the reason is, the reason that we're having such a battle with this, I mean, I had a conversation in my office yesterday with a person. She just walked by and said, thank God for this and that. And we talked about, and she said, it's such a struggle. And so I said, I'm just quoting Tanya, well, for this we were created, right? We were created for this struggle. And if we were created for this struggle, Hashem doesn't, his expression, Hashem doesn't come with more than you can bear. It may seem that way, but if you know that you have within you the power to overcome and deal with what you can bear, then that's the beginning to apply the force to overcome. Hashem gives you that. But it's a great struggle. Why? Because back inside, because the essence of the animal soul, shemihaklipa, which comes from the covering, the forces which conceal godliness, ibetokva ubigurasa, those forces of the animal are strong and powerful, etzlon, in the person, in self, ketel daisa, the way it was when the person was born. Remember, I've mentioned this many times, it's the first part of Tanya. We don't get exposed to the Nefesh Elokis in Tanya till Perek Beis. Second Perek, the godly soul. The first Perek talks about this, the animal soul. The animal soul is the first to enter, and then the Nefesh Elokis comes in after it. So the animal soul not only has an advantage in that it's responsible for our natural view of things, but it's also there in the first place before the Nefesh Elokis comes in. So the Nefesh, and as we grow, we become, the Nefesh Bahamis is responsible for that physical growth. And so we get attached more and more to the physical. And then even as our mind develops, we get attached to the philosophies and the ideologies, et cetera, which, or the listen to the news, right? And listen to the news, and that's swirling in our head because that's the first thing that enters into our body, to be attached to what's going on in the realm of what's natural. And that's, so therefore he uses the expression, because so the Nefesh Elokis, the Nefesh Bahamis, is in its takfa, in its strength, in its power, guvarosa, as it was when we were first born. Barak, except except the garments of the Nefesh Bahamis are not attached to it. Garments. Remember the garments? Thought, speech, and action. We have control if we want to take it. And first we have to know that we have control, and then want to take control of what we think, speak, and do. This is up to our decisioning, right? So we're born with this animal soul, with its natural inclination schlepping us in one way. And at the same time, we have the ability, and this is where it starts, to be able to come the power to release the godly soul, because we have thought, speech, and action, which we can choose what to think about and where to turn our heads. And that's the whole first part of Tanya. That the brain rules over the heart. If you do put your heart in in your mind into holy things, it will. And the Rebbe Rashab tells us in Ayin Beis that even if you don't understand what you're learning in Torah, just because it's Torah is called water, like water on a stone. The stone doesn't have to understand anything. It's just, as long as it just receives the water, it will eventually wear away the stone. So the Torah, thought, speech, and then ultimately action, which is what we're going to be talking about most, will have a quality of beginning to silence and put back in its hiding place the negativity of the Nefesh Bahamis. The Imkain, but it's a struggle. So the Alter Rebbe goes back. Imkain, so much, if so, why did the soul come down into this world? The yaga lorik, to struggle. Lorik means for emptiness. In other words, in the Beinoni, the voice of the animal soul never gets stopped. So it's empty. I mean, we're not emptying out the voice of the Nefesh Bahamis, chas v'sholom. We have a constant lihilachim. We have a constant battle. Kol yemehim, all of our days. Im ha'yetzer, with the yetzer hara. And we're not able to vanquish it, to put it out, to put out that fire of the Nefesh Bahamis. This is the struggle of the Beinoni every single moment, every single day. So he's asking a kind of a rhetorical question. Why did Hashem give us it? Give it to us. But so the Alter Rebbe begins, and this is just the beginning. First of all, it's just the beginning of the parak, and it's just the beginning of a longer discussion, which will go on for a few parakim. This, the following that will be, as I say, rolled out, should be their comfort. Them being the Beinoni, those who are becoming Beinonis. To comfort them doubly, the Toshia, and to be their salvation, to bring about their salvation. Lismach libam, and to cause their heart to rejoice, b'Hashem, Hashoichen item, who dwells within them, v'teich teirosam, within their Torah, v'avedosam, and within their service of God. Period. Meaning period for today. He's leaving us right on a cliffhanger, right? And he's going to start, I'll just read a little bit of where we're going tomorrow, and he's going to start by opening up an explanation of there's a voice there in the Zohar. The Zohar is full of conversations between chaverim, between friends and characters, and one of the characters is called the Yanuka, the small child in the Zohar, who says, he explains the pasuk in the Chumash. It says, a wise person, his eyes are in his head. So if you put your head in the right place, ... So the ... is what we're going to roll out as this chapter continues. So we're left now with a question in the air. Why were we created to a life of continuous struggle? We could volunteer some answers if you want to, or not. So we're up in the air here. First, let's just say any comments or questions about what he said. Let me ask you, do we all here feel this way? That you're kind of every day involved in a struggle? How about you?
So actually that's where my mind was going. Like, why does it appear that the struggle is getting more frequent or greater, and not just, let's say, me, but many people surrounding? Like, you could just sort of see, a pattern of it increasing.
Yep.
The struggle. Why is that? That was the question that came to me.
Well, it's a good question, because most people are seeing that. They're seeing a world that's falling apart double, triple pace. We're seeing, and I don't have to articulate these things because most people are seeing these things. That's the question in the air. I mean, we could start talking about it, and we've had quite a bit of stuff that we could already answer it, but I'm choosing not to, because let's let the parrot go where it's going to go. But yeah, absolutely. Anybody else? So the answer to my question is yes, at least from Bach's point of view. Yeah, we're aware that every day presents new struggles, or old struggles that seem, that's one of the struggles also, the old struggles that we don't seem to ever be able to get rid of. How much is going on today in the world of trauma, right? Trauma, everywhere you see it. Not to mention war, disease, and leolena. On that dark note, therefore, we're going to have to talk about bringing light into the darkness. And we have talked about it before. I think we all have some tools here already. We probably already had some tools before we even started learning Tanya, but we have certainly covered a lot of tools in Tanya. But as I said, we'll let the Alter Rebbe go on with guiding us toward this, dealing with this.
Just to add another thing, right? It's my understanding. It's not just light; it's also that we do it in joy. Isn't that part of?
Absolutely. Yeah, exactly. Simcha v'tuv levav. Simcha breaks through all barriers. How do we get to it? Where is it? How do we touch it? How do we cause it to flame up? Blah, 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 blah. All right. So then we'll see you tomorrow. Emir Hashem, continuing our story. Have a great day, everybody.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you.